But okay, so let's go to the last question. I think this is important, and I think this is the part where, it's important. What would you say to young, because we talk about what would you say to people who wants to move, people to get outside the comfort zone. Okay, now I want you to kind of advise people who are afraid to fail, or how to deal with failure, because that's an important part of life. Okay, so if I ask you, like, how do you deal with failure, so let's say that this, how do you deal with failure, and what would you advise to people?
Okay, it's a very interesting question, actually. Again, we could talk for a long time on that one. But, I'm always asked people that when I talk to them and I train or teach them or coach them or whatever, and this subject comes up, I normally ask them, what is failure? What would you, not you, but the person that we're talking about, whatever it is, what would failure entail for you? How would you describe failure? Because you would discover that the majority of the time, what you're discovering failure is not failure at all. It's just simply learning a different way of it. That's not the way that you should be doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. There's a saying where Albert Einstein, Albert Einstein, the guy that invented, the scientist that invented the bulb, the electrical bulb. So I think it was something like 800 or 600 or 800 filaments for making the bulb, the electrical bulb.
Yeah.
And one of his friends went to see him and he says, why don't you give up? You've already done this 600 or 800 times. I don't know something how long ago, about 800 times, and you fail. And he says, I've never failed. He says, all what I've done is discover that wasn't the right filament for what I'm trying to do. So what I would say to the people is failure doesn't exist, because all what we do is learn that that's not the right way for us to do it. That's not the right way to go about. That's not what we should be doing or how we should be doing it. It's just simply a different way. So we need to try a different way. Failure doesn't exist. What exists is giving up, I say. So if things don't work in the way that you want them to work, so that's not failure. That if you stop doing it, that's not a failure. That's you giving up. Now that is a whole different thing than failure. I will say people all the time, I tell them, failure, you need to learn to welcome failure, because failure will make you strong. Failure will make you resilient. Failure will make you capable, will make you knowledgeable, and it will make you hungry for discover new ways of doing it, or other ways of doing it, or something different to do. And failure, you want to call it failure, will help you to learn more about yourself, about the situation where you are. So the key is not failure. The key is what do we do when things don't work in the way we thought they were going to work.
Of course.
That's to me the major important thing. So what to tell to somebody that fails or is afraid of failing? Don't be afraid of failing. The more times that you fail, the closer that you get to get it right.
True.
It's interesting because the majority of people that are today millionaires, they have been bankrupted once or twice before.
Yeah.
You will not find one millionaire that has not been bankrupted before.
True that.
So bankruptcy, we will call it a failure if you stop there.
Yeah.
But these people didn't stop there. These people did that, and then they got up and they tried a different way of doing it, and tried a different way of doing it, and tried a different way of doing it. I mean, I could explain to you about Richard Branson. It was a failure. Mm-hmm. People that were at school and their teachers told them, you're never going to do anything. John Lennon, his auntie told him, you're never going to make any money. You're always going to be a failure. You're never going to make any money playing the guitar. What, really? I could say to you, what's his name? Simon Cowell, the guy that does X Factor.
Yeah.
He's failed many times in his life. He's been bankrupted in his life. But look at him now. I could talk to you about many of them. Even somebody that lives down here down the road where I live. People don't know he lives down there, but there is a vacuum cleaner called Dyson, Dyson. The gentleman that designed that was a gentleman that lived in a council house. And what he did was he wanted to design a vacuum cleaner, or what we call a hoover or an aspirador, no?
Yeah.
A hoover or a vacuum cleaner that it won't have a back. So all hoovers have a back that you have to empty. I said, I want to design one for my wife that doesn't have this. So he went to work, he managed to do one, he did a prototype, and then he went to all the people that could help him. He went to the banks told them there's no money. He went to Richard Branson told him there's no money. He went to millionaires asking for people to support him and to give him money and to help him. Nobody wanted to help him. But he persisted. He continued. He continued knocking at the door of opportunity. He continued knocking at the door of success or of a chance. And eventually he got it. And look at him now. Multimillionaire, drives his own helicopter. He spends £500,000 in fireworks every year. And he lives a life of luxury. He's got more land than the Queen. See, but in the eyes of people, he was a failure.
Of course.
But failure, as I say, doesn't exist. You fail, you fall, you get up, you dust yourself, and you start again and try to do it differently. That's what I would say. It's been a long-winded talk.
Yeah, but those are wise words, and it's the same advice that I used to give to people, to not be afraid to fail, not be afraid of an error, or like to make mistakes, because they are the things that actually teach you, the things that you grow from, the things that, as you say, they're not the things that they're the things that tell you that you're not going the right way, that there's another way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not the way to do it. And I mean, everybody faced failures, every single body. The difference is there are people who stays in that failures and people who move on and grow from that. And that's the right way to go.
Yeah, it's not how many times you fail, it's how many times you get up.
Exactly.
You only need to stop getting up one time, and then you're not failing, but you're giving up.
Yeah, exactly. That's those are wise words, and I don't know actually what to add to this. This is how it is, and I think it's really important that everybody who's listening that maybe have a bad image from failures or afraid of failure, have this in mind. They are only failures if you stay there, if you give up. If not, they're just teaching you the way they have to go.